Hello, everybody. Today we've got a triple chapter bonanza for you. Chapter 9 Summer 1941. Sometimes in the summer we would have picnics beside the river with the family. A steep, unmade road went from Greytree to the railway line to Ross Station. We crossed this line carefully by opening gates on either side, and then we were by the river where the cows grazed. They went down to the water to drink or to stand and cool off when it was hot. We used to catch sticklebacks in jam jars to take home with us, and sometimes we paddled. People walked along the fields and fished in the river, and others rowed in canoes. Beautiful bee orchids grew beside the riverbank, which we had never seen before, and we often picked daisies to make daisy chain necklaces and crowns. Some days I would go to the river with Mr. Warren when he was fishing, and sit and read or learn something for my homework. It was a very peaceful place. Mr. Warren was a quiet person and very kind. He loved cricket and was a member of Worcester County Cricket Club. Margaret shared his love of the game, and they would go to watch matches together. We walked everywhere, especially when we had a school holiday and could explore the countryside around Ross. At the far end of the town was a high hill called the Chase, where there was a path leading to the top. This was a long walk from Greytree, and was even further than the school sports field where I used to play hockey. But once we got to the top, we could lie on the grass and watch the hawks circling above us until we got enough breath to walk back. One day, we were walking up the path between the trees when we heard shooting below us and saw a red flag a little way ahead. When the shooting stopped, we carried on quickly past the flag. Suddenly, we heard a lot of men shouting and realised they were soldiers who were practising on a shooting range below, and they were shouting at us. We had never seen soldiers there before and had no idea it might be dangerous. We hurried on up to the top, where we sat on the grass for some time until there was no more shooting to be heard. Then we made our way back. The soldiers had all gone by then and had taken the red flag with them, so we knew it was safe, but we never went for a walk up there again. Chapter 10 Autumn 1941. Dorothy was especially kind to us. Once, when Hazel had gone to bed, she knitted a coat and dressed for Hazel's doll out of bits of spare wool, so she had a surprise present for her birthday. Mrs. Warren taught us to play Patience, and Margaret also played card games with us, which helped us to while away the evenings as we had no other ways to entertain ourselves apart from reading. I think I must have read Tarzan of the Apes about a dozen times, as this paperback was one of the few books the Warrens owned. We did not belong to a library like we did at home in London. Dorothy used to buy a Woman's Weekly magazine, which got passed around the neighbours before Hazel was allowed to cut out the pictures she liked to stick in a scrapbook. Dorothy used to take me to play table tennis with the air raid wardens when they were off duty, and to see films at the cinema in the high street. I remember we saw a black and white film called The Great Dictator. This was a film starring Charlie Chaplin, and he pretended to fool around as if he were Hitler. As our country was at war with Hitler, I didn't find Charlie Chaplin very funny, but a lot of people watching laughed at his antics. There wasn't much to laugh about in those days for most people. Miss Harris, the domestic science teacher at the school, took Hazel and me to see the new Walt Disney film Pinocchio, which was showing at the cinema in Ross-on-Wye. It was the first film my sister had ever seen, and she burst into tears every time a bad character appeared. She cried so much that we both had to leave before the film was over. I was very disappointed when that happened, as I had been looking forward to that special treat. Chapter 11 December 1941. We still wrote home every Sunday, and our mother wrote to us each week. Our father, who was a good artist, used to write a short adventure each week for my sister about a cow called Silky Moo, which he illustrated on the other side of the postcard. We had been taught to say our prayers every night with a special request to keep our parents and Julian safe from the bombing, and we certainly believed that would help. My mother never mentioned the war in her weekly letters, which gave us a false impression that all was well in Kensal Rise. Of course, this was not the case. I later found out that because of the bombing, many people had left London. Because of this and rationing, many shops were struggling. There were fewer clothes to buy, and nobody looked smartly dressed anymore. Petrol rationing meant that people cycled wherever possible, so there were fewer cars on the roads. Everywhere people queued patiently for food, especially at the butchers. If there was an extra supply of unrationed meat or extra sausages, the queues were longer than ever. Some of the suburbs on the outskirts of the city had also been bombed, and there were ruined buildings and piles of rubble along the streets. The parks nearly all had big silver barrage balloons tethered on ropes, floating up into the sky to stop the enemy planes from flying too low over the houses. It was sad for the people that had to stay. At Christmas, my parents decided to come and stay with the Warrens for a few days so they could see us again and escape from the chaos in London. Hazel and I went to stay at a neighbour's house to make enough room for them. There were presents for everyone from my parents, who were very grateful to the Warrens for all their kindness to us. My mother gave me a beautiful little watch with a black strap and a mother-of-pearl face, which delighted me as it was the first watch I had ever had, and it made me feel so grown up. Sadly, I did not have my present for long because I was foolish enough to wear it to school. During a break on the sports field while we were playing a hockey match, I suddenly found myself surrounded by some bigger girls who demanded I hand over my watch to them. There was nobody near enough for me to appeal to for help, and I was too terrified not to comply with their demands, so I handed over my precious watch and never saw it again. I told the Warrens that I had lost it, which seemed better at the time than to tell the teachers, as I was too afraid of being bullied by the older girls if they ever found me on my own again. Even with the upset of losing my beautiful watch, I was still so happy living with the Warren family that Christmas that I didn't feel homesick or have any wish to return to London with my parents when they left. Our mother was obviously missing us though, and I felt a bit sad for her. Oh, it's a bit upsetting about the watch, isn't it? I will see you tomorrow. Thanks for tuning in.